All right, we're live. We have one like, and all right. Hi, welcome to today's live stream. So happy you could make it. If you're new to my channel, hi, I'm Gabriel. I am a Catholic YouTuber, and you should definitely subscribe to my channel. Hit the post notifications. Apparently, it helps a lot because of all that censorship stuff, whatnot. Like this video also helps a lot. Apparently, I have no idea. I'm really bad at all of these things, even though I claim to have studied marketing. So, today we have a very special guest. I always say that we have special guests on, but today is none other than the admin of, gosh, the last time I had him on, I mispronounced the name, but Catholicism,
It's perfect.
the world famous meme page. So, without further ado, we're having Brian on today to talk about his new book, The Shriving Place. Really great stuff. Thoroughly enjoyed it. So, without further ado, let's roll the intro. All right. So high tech, I know. Hello, Brian. Welcome. The last time we spoke, I was trying to be a cool guy and doing my podcast in the airport. I was on my way to the US, or so I thought, but things kind of
Yeah.
went sideways a little
Yeah.
bit. Long story. But here we are with a bit more of a more sophisticated setup. Um, a lot better than just hanging on to airport Wi-Fi. So, Brian, please introduce yourself.
I'm Brian from Catholicism. That's where a lot of people see my content. I've written a couple of books now. We're about to talk about the novella Shriving Place, and then there's also Stork Sowing Season, which is like a dystopian Catholic, like pro-life fiction. I would
Yeah,
call it. And
absolutely loved both of them.
good. I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah, I mean, it's the last podcast. You can go back and watch it, but the last podcast was all about basically how we Catholics, we need this stuff. We need this stuff out in the world. Catholic fiction. Brian, do you know anyone else who does the sort of thing you're doing with, Catholic fiction?
Well, I mean, there's a handful of people. Uh, for the most part, though, everybody already knows about them. You've got Dr. Taylor. He doesn't do it anymore, but he wrote like a trilogy about St. George. And then you have Matt Fradd, who he'll write things, and typically he just infuses it with a little bit of Catholicism, but it's not necessarily Catholic fiction.
Hmm.
And then there's a handful of other uh, authors that are more small time, like myself. But we've got like a little community building, so it's it's definitely growing.
So great to hear. I mean, we need Catholic fiction that isn't the other than The Exorcist. I mean, I think everyone gets it. We Catholics are the experts with all the demon stuff, but come on, we can do other stuff as well. We're literally the bedrock of Western civilization. So, hey, we got more to us. Hey, another good show. I'm not sure if you've seen it, Daredevil. Have you checked that out before?
I did watch Daredevil on Netflix back in the day. Um, I was actually surprised by the amount of Catholicism that they put into it. I mean, he is a Catholic character, but I thought maybe Netflix would, kind of whitewash it, so to speak. But they
Whitewash.
left a lot of that stuff in.
Yeah, and I loved it. I mean, I'm gonna come out with a video on I don't know, something like top 10 Catholic moments in Daredevil or something because I mean, I absolutely loved it. I mean, gotta we
Yeah,
need we need more stuff like that. And your book, Shriving Place, I guess the confessional is a very it's such a it's such a writable can't think of the word, but it's such a writable theme to write about. It's such a great literary device, if you know what I mean. The confessional, where even in Stork,
Yeah.
you had a confessional scene as well, and those are really like the climax of the stories always, and absolutely love it. So, yep.
It happened like that. I mean, not to spoil anything, but it definitely. I mean, there's a theme of repentance and what would be the word? Uh, what is the word? The I don't know, just a return to doing what's right and just and whatnot.
Sort of a
Like
prodigal son sort of narrative going
yeah.
on, Yeah, yeah. So I think that's a good. I hate this word segue. All these now that with COVID, all these companies are all about Zoom meetings, and the word that they always use is segue. Segue. So anyway, I think that's a good segue into what is the book about. Tell us a bit more about the book. I remember last interview, it's totally mansplained the book synopsis, but this time I want to let you do it.
Well, Shriving Place follows the story of a character named Simon, who is a convert to Catholicism in Birmingham, Alabama. He converts to Catholicism, and he converts to like a traditional Catholicism, Latin Mass, and he has a family, and he gets married. He gets married and then has a family, and it's just the book itself is kind of a fusion of him, good father, caring husband and dad, and also him having the second life where he hunts clergy who are heretics or pedophiles, and I mean, he actually hunts them. So it's a strange balance between right and wrong, and you know where's the line and whatnot.
Sorry,
I actually
I
can't.
am on mute. I'm on mute. Sorry. Is that is that Lila there in the background that I hear?
No, that's my cat. He's being an
Oh
idiot.
my.
Uh, I wish I wish my wife, if she heard me, could put the cats away.
All
Let's
right.
see.
Maybe someone viewing can DM her like put the cats away.
Yeah.
Right. So this story really is it. I mean, the title of this live stream is Catholic Vigilantism. So, I mean, I just love this. This is a timeless piece of like entertainment tactic. I would say that this whole idea of the vigilante Robin Hood idea, you know, everyone loves a story like that. Partly because it's something that you can never do in real life. But everyone
Hmm.
fantasizes about doing it ever since you were a kid. You just want to be the good guy and go out
Yeah.
into the streets
Take
and
take
yeah,
matters into your own
take
hands.
matters into your own hands and you know put justice in the streets. So of course the first question would be if this guy Simon was a comic book character, or perhaps was there any character that actually inspired the character of Simon here?
I would say there's a variety of characters that inspired him. Uh, just mostly the anti-hero archetype altogether. It's my favorite kind of character to write because they're conflicted and they're relatable
It's
because
very
they're
Catholic, isn't
imperfect.
it?
Yeah, definitely. And so I don't know. I mean, I guess this character was inspired by a mixture
Um,
of like Taxi Driver, uh,
Taxi driver.
The
That
Punisher.
okay.
Yeah, Taxi Driver. It's a
Taxi
movie with
driver.
Robert De Niro.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay, okay, yeah. Sorry,
yeah.
I'm a bit. Maybe I'm a bit too young for that. I don't know. Taxi driver.
We all are.
I was like, Yeah, I was expecting something a bit more dramatic than a taxi driver. So we have
It
taxi driver who can you give me a bit of background in case people watching are not familiar with who on earth Taxi Driver this movie is?
Taxi Driver is just a movie about a dude who comes back from Vietnam, I think, and he comes back to the life in New York, and he's just disgusted by everything that he sees and like the decay of society, and he kind of he kind of works towards the goal of like making a statement of sorts. And I don't want to spoil anything, but he's kind of like an anti-hero, definitely.
All right. Who else? Have you? Is that all? Punisher.
I mean, just
I definitely see the
all of those.
Punisher parallels. You know, the
Yeah,
Punisher parallels. When you told me, like,
yeah, Punisher.
Punisher, that
Yeah, there's just it's just that archetype in general. Some someone read it. Shazam Watkins. He does audiobooks, and one of his audiobooks is for Mike Maugh's Harassment Architecture. I don't know if you know what that is, but he read the book, and he said that it reminded him a lot of what was that? The Boondock Saints. So I guess you could say that was inspired by Boondock Saints, which is a movie. It was like a cult movie about a couple of brothers that get like some divine
is it an
mission from God.
Irish? Is it an Irish? Is that the one? Am I thinking of the right one? Is it?
They're Irish Americans.
I think.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I forget where it's set, but it's in America, and they're just kind of like they have Irish heritage and whatnot, and they go on. They might actually be Irish, and they go on and they kill a bunch of mob bosses and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Speaking of this Punisher thing, we were just talking about this that the Punisher, the character Frank Castle, you know his real name, Castiglione, probably
Mhm.
butchering the pronunciation, Italian. Yeah, so I mean he was raised Catholic. He grew up Catholic, and he was studying to become a priest. You know, this Punisher guy, and you know he couldn't. I think the story is he couldn't believe that there could be a good God that would allow terrible things to happen, which is the most terrible atheist argument out there. But
Yeah.
that's the story. Very interesting. And alongside that, we
Our
have,
boy
yeah.
our boy Aquinas could have patched him up, but I guess he didn't get to the
Uh,
Aquinas.
Yeah, probably not. Yeah, and we have Daredevil. So anyone out there who hasn't seen Daredevil, I mean, if you're Catholic and you watch Netflix and you haven't seen Daredevil, like, what are you doing? Like, Daredevil's where it's at. The opening scene is literally a confession scene, so you gotta check
Mhm.
that out. By the way, if you're one of the 10 people watching, which is great by my numbers, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments section and I will get to them. I'll open up the comments right now to see. Oh, looks like we have quite a bit of fan mail. We have Danny R saying, "Let's go. You got this." Uh, Catholicism says about to start. Okay.
Yeah.
Lots of fan mail from Brian.
Somebody actually they did a shout out on Catholic Answers. Like somebody called in and did a shout out, and I guess he was like nervous or something. He said, "I want to give a shout out to Brian Edwards Patrick,"
So is this
and
an inside joke now?
yes, it is an inside joke.
That's great. That's great. Right. So I see some questions coming up, and I'll bring it them up at the end when we come to the Q&A. But for now, so what's gonna happen now is that as I was reading this book, yes, of course I read the book. I picked out a bunch of quotes that I just really liked and wanted to talk about. So I'm just gonna bring them out and I'm gonna read them and give some context perhaps, and let's talk about it. I want to know what went on in your head when you spat these lines, man.
Sure.
So the first one we have is, all right, what is this? I guess this is when the character realizes that he has a calling to Catholicism, I think. And he says, I felt a calling, you could say, but not in a spiritual sort of way. I had no majestic experience, no angels or trumpets, no Holy Ghost revival, just some kind of realization, I guess. And this, this struck me because this is so true in terms of the whole, in Catholicism, we always say that the sacraments, they work as just by doing done, even if you don't feel anything. And sometimes something that you feel should be as amazing as, like, wow, you're consuming the literal body, blood, soul, and divinity of Christ, and it just
Hmm.
feels normal. And
Yeah.
yeah, so this really struck me. And so what went on in your head? That's what I got from it, but what went on in your head?
Well, I put a lot of myself into this book. It's almost autobiographical, you could say. But the conversion process
I got a lot of
for
the
me,
biographical part from the part about family and wife and stuff. I could
yeah,
totally picture it. What is your wife's name again? Sorry.
Kristen,
Kristen. Yeah, I was just imagining Kristen, the way you described everything, although the physical appearances were different, and I was like, wait,
yeah,
okay, this seems like a autobiography. Don't
just
tell
a
me
little
he's
bit.
actually going. Don't tell me he's actually going out there killing priests. I hope not.
No, no,
All right, just to put it out there, so you're not doing that. Just for legal purposes, to disclaim that.
I've not done that.
What on earth? Why is it doing that again? Um, hang on. Give me
A little ad break.
a little ad for Lumix. Oh my goodness. I think it happens sometimes when I pull out another screen, but
Mm.
people be kind. Yeah. Sorry, we were talking about this quote.
It's just it's mostly based on my conversion process, which was very logical in nature. There were a lot of feelings and emotions that I didn't feel until afterward, which I find to be sort of a blessing because it's wonderful to get to savor a conversion, so to speak. But this character, he mostly just he thinks his way into Catholicism, and it's not like something that was just entirely emotional for him, you know.
Not entirely, but I guess we'll see a bit later.
Yeah.
I'm sure there was a bit of, well, I mean, not for you, but maybe the character. We'll get to that. We'll get to
Yeah.
that. So the next one, but what of my ancestors? I'm of broad European ancestry. I found it sort of shameful to not be Catholic, to go my entire life without having been to one of the incredibly decorated churches. Like, go ahead, fire away on this, man.
Yeah, so this kind of builds off of the previous quote. He kind of started to realize things, Catholicism in a deeper, more historical perspective. And for me personally, that's what happened because um, I, obviously I'm European, and the majority of my ancestors were definitely Catholics. I mean, without a doubt. Even though my great great grandfather was probably a Protestant, before then, everybody in Europe was pretty much Catholic at one point. So it's just it's kind of beautiful because when you go to mass, the Eucharist transcends like time and space and everything. So you're attending the same mass that your ancestors are present at. It's like just a very surreal moment, and that's kind of what this quote's about. I mean, it's also about like the culture and the tradition and stuff. The decorated churches. It's just it's something he wanted to take part in.
Yeah, I think a lot of
You know.
people definitely throw away. They tend to throw away the entire part that the Catholic Church had to do with Western civilization, literally the bedrock of Western civilization. And as you said, to attend mass and imagine, I mean, I can't relate, but to know that this is the mass of your ancestors, that's
Yeah.
beautiful. But in the same brushstroke, it's also beautiful because even if my ancestors were not, of this lineage, it's still beautiful to, come on, what happened to my face? Anyway, it's still so beautiful to imagine that, just so beautiful to imagine that this church really is universal, all the way on the other
Mhm.
side of the world, a bunch of pagans who would have, I don't know, been worshipping the sun or something. I mean, literally, down right below my apartment, there are people who burn papers to, during the, what's that, the 7 month anniversary. Something to do with the 7 month, and they believe that the gates of hell open, and so they have to burn paper offerings and hell notes. I could be
Hmm.
doing that.
Interesting.
I could be doing that right
Yeah.
now,
Yeah, that could
but
very well be you.
yeah, that could very well be me. That was probably what my ancestors believed. But through
Well,
the beauty of
you
Christ, yeah,
you're still in communion with your brothers and sisters. They might not have
exactly.
been from Singapore, but they definitely are there, and they're saints. And I don't know. It's still very cool that you're attending the same mass that Saint Peter and all of them attended and are attending, because the mass is one singular event. So it, it's
Exactly.
cool. It's like you're
Especially,
there.
especially if you attend the Latin Mass, it's even closer. So, just saying.
Yeah.
Just saying. Right. What is this next one? I love this one. I didn't have problems with Mount Rushmore though, and people travel from all over the world to see those. Mary is the love interest. Mary had no issue kneeling before the statue, so I was fine to follow suit. So, just first thoughts. I just want to say that this is, how true is it that women are the best converters? Come on,
Yeah, definitely.
like,
Definitely. I mean,
uh,
when I was in RCIA, when I was converting, all of the couples there were getting married, and it was all female Catholics with Protestant husbands that were converting for it. So,
always, always, it's
yeah.
barely the other way around. I think
Hmm.
I often think it's because, one, because men are a bit more logical. They think logically, like your character in the book. Females, they tend to be a bit more emotional, and they might be a bit more emotionally attached to, their past and their family and all of that. So men tend to be a bit
And
more yeah.
it's kind of a reverse, like a parallel of Eve offering the fruit to Adam. In
Yeah,
a
yeah.
sense, the female is offering Catholicism or the church to the men, and luring them in.
And that is the spirit of Mary, isn't it? The Marian spirit of undoing the sin of Eve and bringing Christ to us. It's beautiful, and
Yes.
yeah, where do you get a woman like that?
I don't
um
know.
yes. This whole thing, what else was going on in your head? That was just what I thought, yeah, this is. Oh, wait, sorry. And the second reason why is because, what was it? Oh, yeah, I think it's also because men tend to be more of pursuers. They will, they're more willing to pursue the woman, whereas a woman,
Hmm.
the woman isn't. It's not traditionally the way that the woman will go out of her way to pursue the men, and it's often the other way around. That's what I think. That's why I think it's usually the Catholic female and bringing in the pagan husband.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
Any thoughts on that? I mean, I'm just rambling off there.
I mean, yeah, it's just, men do have a special, office of being the patriarch, um, paterfamilias. So, I mean, aside from that, though, I think women have something that men desire, and so uh, men are more often willing to pursue that.
Yeah, very well said.
Yeah.
Uh, anyway, the Mount Rushmore comparison was pretty great.
Hmm.
And the whole idea of, you see the girl you're madly in love with doing it, and all of a sudden all of your preconceived notions and stigma against it suddenly goes away, It just well, this hot girl is doing it. I guess I can do it as well.
Well, the character Mary in the book, she is a personification of the purity of the church in a lot of ways. So it's just it's Simon seeing the church is okay with it, and seeing the purity of the church, that the true church, not the filth within it, but the fact that the church allows it, the veneration of saints and whatnot, that he's at peace with it. And it also relates back to his ancestors, like Grandma Cherry was okay with the saints, and she was okay with praying to Mary and stuff. And Grandma Cherry was excellent. Grandma Cherry is my grandma, but I'm just saying, like, it's definitely that sort of idea.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Well, that's definitely a deeper way of looking at it. I'm just looking at it from a barely out of my teenage years sort of perspective. So,
Mm.
all right. This one. Nowadays, you'd find yourself in a parish seemingly no different from a Southern Baptist church, maybe with 2 or 3 statues hiding somewhere. It's interesting that this church would be found in the heart of Protestant Mecca. That's my name for the Bible Belt. End quote.
Right.
Protestant Mecca. Did you bring this up when we had our last podcast? Protestant Mecca. Where have I
I'm
heard
not
this
sure if
before?
I'm not sure if I named it. I've used that term a few times before. I don't know if it's my term, but I like to use it. I think like 4% of Christians in my area are Catholic, so it's a
Oh, wow.
tiny minority, and everybody else is Protestant. I mean, the Orthodox practically doesn't even exist here. So it's either you're Protestant or you might be Catholic. But you're being a Catholic, there's just as many as like Mormons around here. It's strange territory.
Well, it's funny because in Alabama, from what I know, that's where EWTN was started, wasn't it?
Yeah,
So how
yeah,
did
it's right
that
down the
come
road.
about?
We Mother Angelica said that the Lord led her there
Wow.
for an outreach in the area, but it's been suggested that EWTN, not because of Mother Angelica, but EWTN has kind of forgotten the original purpose
Oh,
of that mission.
darn. But I mean, how true is it that I mean, Protestant Mecca? Why Bible Belt? Like how?
Yeah,
What's the
no,
vibe?
it's just extremely Protestant here. You don't see statues of saints or Mary in yards. If you see a rosary, it's like a rosary in someone's rearview mirror. It's typically like a Mexican or a Hispanic or something. It's typically not, like a native Alabamian. Uh, but it's very Protestant in culture. You don't see any of that stuff. So it's just kind of weird uh, to this character Simon when he found a church that was so extremely Catholic in the middle of all of it. Because most Catholic parishes around here, still have like statues and stained glass, but it's a lot more minimal, and they were built like post Vatican II, so they kind of have like a more modern appearance. But there's a handful of churches around here, a couple churches that still have the high altars and the obsessive like the almost overboard amount of icons and saints and things.
Huh, yeah. Being in originally being in the conservative space more of, I already felt the sort of pressure of being in sort of a virtual Bible Belt, conservative movement, evangelical Protestants. I already felt that, so I can't imagine living in, you know, well, you do give a good idea of it. But another thing I was wondering was, I know that a lot of the Mexicans are, I know a lot of them are probably illegal. Am I right to say that?
There's a pretty large number of illegal immigrants around here. I mean, I've met and I know them.
Yeah.
Uh, I've had personal, like friendships with them and stuff. But there are, I mean, there's legals too.
Yeah, yeah.
There's
So I
legals
mean, that
too,
was that was
definitely.
that was the question actually. I was wondering, like how is the relationship between local Catholics and these guys who, I was thinking, is there like any sort of divide? I mean, coming from
Oh well,
halfway across the
they
world,
have.
I'm trying to understand.
There's a lot of parishes around here that offer a Spanish mass
Hmm.
uh, after the English mass. But when I visited Texas, there were a lot more Hispanics. So it's not quite that dense than it is here. Here it's like it's still like a very like balanced mixture of ethnicities, but in Texas it's very Hispanic.
So
So it might be a little different there. I don't know.
from your experience, how is it like? Obviously we're more, we would consider ourselves to be pretty traditional conservative Catholics. So when these illegal immigrant Catholics come, um they come into church, how has it been like? I'm just trying to understand, how is it like how do they lean, whatever, politically, their stances on different things, like how is it like I'm trying give me some sort of
It's
idea.
I mean, I wish Cruz was here to explain better, but
I
they
should do a podcast with
definitely.
him.
Yeah, you should. I'll tell him to do so. Maybe even invite Ricardo on. But the Hispanics, they're definitely um they should be conservatives, but they're more socially liberal in a lot of ways.
Hmm.
They I don't know. They should definitely be conservative, and a lot of times they'll be here, and after a few years or after they get enough of a security being here or whatnot, they'll become conservatives.
That's what I thought. That's what I
I
thought.
that's how it is in like Florida. The I guess the Cubans there or whatnot, but a lot of Hispanics buy into the Democrats are going to give them citizenship
Yeah,
and the
yeah.
Democrats are going to open up the borders, and they don't do that. And that wakes a lot of them up. It's just on the right, they're the the right, like the Republicans, just they are shown to be very hateful in a lot of ways, like maybe media bias or whatnot. So they distrust the Republicans. But the way I look at it is a bunch of Europeans came over here to the New World, and if they have stopped having children, and if they stop having children, then eventually the natural residents of this land are going to repopulate and replenish. So of course that's just bound to happen either way, whether or not the border is open or closed.
Huh. That's an interesting take. Yeah, thanks for that, because this is something that, of course, living halfway across the world. I've been trying to understand, and hey, I should definitely do a podcast with Ricardo and Cruz on this topic. Just a quick break to say that if you're watching, you should definitely subscribe. So you have this little thing that pops up here. Subscribe and turn push notifications on, of course. Follow me on social media, Instagram, and of course, check out my website in case we get censored. We always say that, but I'm honestly not that extreme. I'm not that worried, but hey, let's just be safe. Anyway, back to the regular program. What's the next thing we have on? There. All right, this is a deep one. Quote, I noticed that pattern of recent history. The good ones die, and the perverts seem to escape all confinement of reality. A priest married your daughter off to some slightly brown man. It's okay, he's on the porch. Go shoot him. A priest molested your daughter. Oh well, he's gone. He's been relocated far away. End quote. Yeah.
So it's a pretty dark quote. So this is actually within the book. There's a story that kind of explains what's going on here. In Birmingham, there was actually a priest back in like the 20s or so, and he was shot to death on the porch because he married some like Baptist minister's daughter, white daughter, off to a Puerto Rican Catholic, and they that didn't go over too well, unfortunately. It's very sad. I wish we could canonize that priest because he's definitely a martyr of the faith. I don't know what the holdup is on that, but really, this is kind of just an example of how, like, an analogy of how like evil things happen. People are able to do evil things, and then it's like we barely ever see any of the good, or righteous judgment. So the guy that shot the priest is unrighteous. It's wicked. But yet you have a priest who's molesting people and whatnot, and the church relocates him. And it's not. A lot of people would want to see a priest, executed or something for doing such things. But I mean, the church could at least do better than to just hide away scandals and abusers like that, which has happened in the past. So it's just an example of how bizarre and how horrible things are.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that that I read that in the story. I didn't know that it was based off a true story. Wow.
Yeah,
God bless that priest.
it happened. Yeah.
Goodness. I think it just goes to show that, I think one thing that people don't realize is that we as Catholics, we're 100% aware of these things, and we're mad about it to the point that we're writing books about it, okay? Case in point. And I think there are a couple of questions later on that ask, like, what can we do about this? And I think just offhanded, I mean, one thing is we have to acknowledge these things with humility. We can't just be like, nah, it's just over exaggerated. I mean, we gotta bite the bullet, sort of, like, yeah, it happens, and it's unfortunate. It doesn't denigrate truth, but it's unfortunate,
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. Kristen's like whispering something to me. I don't know. But
What is it,
um
Kristen?
the church often wants to save face and kind of not make, a bad appearance in the media. The charger downstairs. Sorry. But they try to keep scandal out of the public eye.
Yeah.
And that's understandable, but that's not what we should do. We should show by example, like, how vigilant we are to combat such things, and previously in the early church and whatnot, there would be a priest or a monk or whatever, and if he was caught in a homosexual act of any sort, he would be given a like prayer and fasting xerophagy, which is like a highly restrictive diet for years,
Hmm.
and it was a punishment, and that's not even like molestation or anything. That was just a very strict, harsh punishment on that priest. And I think if the church dealt with things in a more strict way, we'd be a lot better off, and people would have a lot more respect. But at the same time, they, the people are still going to hate the Catholic Church. So either way, um, we're still going to get persecuted, even if we do things perfectly. But with the lost my train of thought. I'm sorry.
It's all
the
good, all good.
she was
We
and
we get the idea. Yeah, it's definitely
yeah.
we we have to acknowledge these things. Kristen, what is it? Giving her a chance to speak. What
She ran away.
did she get what she needed?
Yeah, I needed the MacBook charger and she ran and got that. But
Oh, right. All right. What's the next one? Oh, speaking of which, this is something I brought up last minute. This quote: "Your mother's job is to be a mother. Someone has to make money for us, for y'all's food, for this house you live in." And I just wanted to ask, I mean, as a young guy asking, is this something common? Like, what do you think of the importance of having the presence of the father at home? We all talk about the importance of having a mother at home to take care of the kids and nurture them. And of course,
the
fatherhood presence is important, but how much presence exactly?
I'm sorry, I'm having she didn't actually plug this in for me. Uh I'll get
It's
it in
all
a
good.
second.
It's all
But
good.
the father's presence in the family is very important. And I actually don't agree with Simon leaving so often. I think that's one of his blind sides. But you see families that have no father figure due to divorce or something. I have like personal friends, like friends from my high school and whatnot. Their lives are just kind of like empty of motivation and drive and ambition and dream and whatnot. It really affects people. Like it really affects especially men and women. I mean, girls grow up, didn't have father around, and
I
they
mean,
do
that's
all
where you
kinds
get
of
the term
things.
daddy issues. So,
Yeah, definitely. And I don't know. I think our generation, in a lot of ways, is a generation of bastards. We and of course we will always have the Father in heaven, but a lot of people today are failed by the lack of a father figure in the home, and they're also failed by the lack of a good priest. You know, which is priests are fathers. So we're kind of lost in a desert right now.
for
So it's
sure.
very important for the dad to be around.
Sure. Do you need to go plug in your MacBook? Did you
Yeah,
successfully
let
do
me
it?
let me go ahead and do that.
Go ahead and do that. Yeah, I mean, just yeah, I can definitely testify to whatever you said. I mean, I personally come from a single mom background, so it's true. I mean, for those watching, it's definitely true. All the things that they say about the importance of having a father figure. I mean, I can't say anything else aside from the fact that everything they say is definitely true. It's so important for fathers, to be around. But I was wondering how around, because I don't have anything to base it off. But how around should a father be? You have to go out and work, but how around is a father expected or should a father be home? You know?
Well, just just for starters, a childhood's catechesis, their training, learning the faith, learning morals and whatnot begins in the home. It doesn't begin at church.
Yeah, yeah.
A father needs to be around to help teach those things by not just the words out of his mouth, but by example. Uh, so that the kids can watch. I mean, it's very important that dad's around for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Anyway, I'm going to take a commercial break because I want to keep the lights on. So I feel like a YouTuber now. And this ad is, full disclosure, this ad is for myself. So if you're a conservative content creator, I'm sure you're aware by now that big tech could destroy your career in a click of a button. And this is why more and more creators are turning to personal platforms that they actually own and have full control over. You too can have a place where your audience can find you no matter what, free from third party algorithms or censorship. You can even have your own very own inbuilt Patreon platform. I have one myself. I'll pull it up right now. There we go. Your very own inbuilt Patreon platform, so you'll never have to be at the mercy of that leftist company of Patreon again. So don't rely on big tech to reach your audience. Have your own platform. Grow up and stop renting space from big tech and buy some virtual real estate that you actually own. It really costs less than you think. So to find out more, head over to gxemedia.com or send me an email. I'll take you through a step-by-step process to create your very own platform free from big tech censorship. Now, back to the regular programming. Right, so let's get back into the quotes. This quote: God does not make you a sinner. God does not make you gay any more than he makes you a pedophile. The world does that. Abuse does that. You do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
It is what it
there's a
is,
trend.
really.
I'll say that a lot of the sex abuse I think is related directly to sexual liberation and the fact that we've become so morally decayed as a society that uh, it's like a slippery slope, a domino effect. You allow this, you allow that. Eventually, you're going to allow other things, more heinous crimes against humanity. And pedophilia is just that. And the kind of the cushy approach to homosexuality and what we see in the church today, calling homosexuality something that God, intended for you to have, is just incorrect.
Yeah,
It's
the whole
it's heretical.
born this way,
Yeah.
the born this way argument. Yeah.
Well, the majority, I think a good percentage of homosexuals have learned in one way or another to become homosexual. I don't think that people are necessarily born with it always. If they are born with it, it's due to original sin, which is something that affects all of us at birth.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think that's a given. That's not necessarily something God programmed you with. You could, like, I could be predisposed to alcoholism. God doesn't want me to be an alcoholic. There's just we've got to strive as Christians to do better and to please God. He's not pleased in this way. There's no fruit from homosexuality. Heterosexual couples alone can, reproduce. So, I mean, I feel like that's nature's way of showing us what has fruit and what doesn't. But as this quote says, the world does that, abuse does that, you do that. You do that, it's a personal decision. You can't abstain from these actions. Abuse does that, a lot of these homosexuals have abuse in their background, especially the pedophiles. They were themselves abused, and they kind of replicate this in their own behavior and decisions.
Yeah, of course. And as you said, you always have. I mean, God gave us free will for a reason, and you know the whole argument of it's not really their fault. It's not exactly the best argument because you can have been abused and you could have have had things happen to you, but yeah, is the choice is still yours. It's a very complicated topic, and we can have a whole other podcast on the responsibility of this, but it just boils down to, I think the main point is that God doesn't make people pedophiles or gay or God doesn't make you sin. That if that is so, that's not God. I don't know what God you have.
Hmm. Yeah, right. And people are preaching that right now in church.
Oh yeah.
Uh, there's plenty of priests that are teaching that. I mean, I'll say that they're fringe, but it's definitely becoming uh, more and more often that they do that.
It's really
That you see
unfortunate. I
the
mean, look at Germany.
Yeah, Germany's awful right now. What did they just say? They said something about
S-
having like
Yeah,
giving
hope.
Protestants the
Oh yeah.
sacraments or something.
Oh wow.
Yeah, they're
The fact
they're
that we have
practically.
heard two different things. The one I heard was that the German, some high-ranking bishop says that he has great hope for homosexual unions or something like that.
Oh,
Something to do with
yeah, yeah, I heard that.
homosexuality. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's terrible in Germany. I have friends who they grew up Catholic and they're conservative, but because they see the state of the German church, that is what they think of Catholicism, and they leave the church completely. Even though if they were in America, they would definitely be Catholic. But just because of what they've seen, they just completely hate the church as an institution because that's what they see, and that's
Hmm.
terrible. Come on, Germany, get your act together. Gosh.
Yeah, they're on the verge of schism, so I
They
don't
really
think
are.
it'll be. I don't think we'll have to worry about that that look for long. I think they'll become their own thing.
Yeah, my priest, we were having a conversation once, uh, with another guy, and he was like, you know, um, I think Germany, they're starting this new Protestant church or something, and the priest was like, "What do you mean? They already have a Protestant church,"
Hmm.
referring to very true. Anyway, so this quote, next one would be. Oh, okay. Context. So this is when Simon he finally says that he wants to convert to Catholicism. So the priest asked him why. The priest asked, winking at me. He knew Mary probably had a large part in it. Seems like a nice alternative to hell, he said. Do you have any proof of a Christian baptism? Proof? Have you been baptized? Yes, probably about 3 times. The priest rolled his eyes. I mean, I added
Yeah,
this for just because of the humor of it. Is this a legit thing? I mean,
yeah,
have you
yeah.
honestly
I
have
think
you?
I've been baptized multiple times in my life because I
Oh
think
my,
Protestants just they have a very poor understanding of
yeah,
sacraments,
yeah,
and it's not that it's not like they deny that. I don't know. They have a very bad understanding. That's all it is. They don't know if a thing is a symbol or if something is actually required or a metaphor. It's just it's math, and that's something that you actually see a lot around here. People that get baptized
oh
over
wow.
and over again. Yeah,
Every church you go to, you get baptized again.
Catholics. we believe in one baptism for
Yeah.
forgiveness of sin.
Exactly.
But we walk through the church door every time for mass, and we do the sign of the cross with the holy water, and that's a reminder of that. So we naturally don't feel like we need to be baptized over and over again because we always remind ourselves that we are baptized.
Wait, is that a thing? Like, do they get baptized over and over again on purpose? Like, really? Like,
I mean, not so drastically,
oh,
but yeah, I mean,
like, is it like
people,
a sort of how married couples renew their vows? Do they treat it
yeah,
as something like
it's
that?
it's kind of yeah, it's similar to
Oh,
that. Or
wow.
they,
Okay, that I didn't
because
know.
they don't believe in confession, so often if they get baptized as like a teenager and then they go through a life of sin and debauchery and
Oh,
stuff, they'll be like, I want to get right with Jesus, and they're like, oh well, I need another baptism,
oh,
and they kind of do it like that. So it's just mm.
oh man. Yeah, the last interview I had with Catholic Gabe, that's his username. His name obviously isn't Catholic Gabe. Yeah, Catholic Gabe. He's a convert, and he was telling me that yeah, he too got baptized multiple times. I was telling him, wow, you probably undid your own baptism by redoing it so many times. Like a double negative or something. No idea how that works, but I mean, for those of you out there watching who don't know, in Catholicism, once you get baptized, be it whether or not it's in the Catholic Church, if you're baptized in a Protestant church, if you're baptized in the Trinitarian formula, the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, you're baptized. We can't do it again. So sometimes if you
You can't
can't,
undo it either.
yeah, you can't undo it either. So you can't say, I'm not, you can't renounce it. So
Yeah, if you go through a little Wiccan phase or something and you want
yeah,
to renounce God's ownership over your
your
mind, body, and
soul,
soul, you can't
not
do it.
working, man, not working.
You might die and go to hell, but you can repent of that. So if you change your mind later, we'll be here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What was I gonna say? I have lost my train of thought. But anyway, um, next quote. This, this is definitely leaning more into the political side, which is a bit more juicy. So let's get into it. The liberal white Christians ramble mindlessly about God as if they're experts after never attending church. I never understood why they insist on making themselves authority on morality. They don't think of decency. Not really. Their brains are sponges for celebrity opinions and television programming. After COVID, many people continued sporting small coverings over their faces as if they weren't fornicating with strangers, trying new designer drugs, or eating nothing but slices of pizza every day. That was a great jab. Weren't fornicating with
Yeah.
strangers. Yeah, sure, wear a mask when you're literally, I don't know, spreading HIV or stuff. There was this
Yeah.
tweet that I saw. Like you want to show your medical records? Why not show your like HIV records?
Yeah. No, definitely. It's bizarre, man. I think it's just an example of how sheepish everybody is, which that's always been a quality of humanity, but it's in the wrong direction now, and it's hard to watch, It's very difficult to watch. I am preached to all the time about, COVID and social distancing and
Oh yeah,
stuff like
who
that. And
by?
then these people, huh? Well, just generally speaking, like we are preached to by
Oh,
these people. And then you go and you look at this person, not to be judgmental or anything, but they are um they are like poster children, all of them. It's like they've been cut out of the same mold and everything. It's just like what happened to everybody's individuality, and what happened what happened to authenticity?
well, that is their definition of being unique and authentic to them. So,
Yeah, they get to have their very own, personal face mask with their own design on it, their own political statement. It's
Oh
wonderful.
yeah. Oh yeah. They are, I have a video coming out about this. There are literally people out there whose entire ideology, it matches up with the status quo of what literally every corporation, every media outlet, every celebrity is saying, and they speak out about it like they're some sort of rebel with they're some sort of they think that they're a vigilante, you know, a real vigilante
Hmm.
goes out and kills pedophile priests. I'm joking,
Yeah.
but yeah, they think they think they're real special by wearing their mask. Good guys. This next one. This is what we were referring to earlier about how confession is such a great literary device, and this is in the entire book. I think this was definitely the most relatable quote. Um, quote. I think hard as I can about the past 6 months, and really, it's not also spotless, not as immaculate as the fogginess of my own mind. I know for a fact that there are tens of thousands of sins. Probably continues on, but I didn't copy it. But yeah, this is so relatable. Come on, like every confession. I guess this is what happens when you don't discipline yourself and make a proper examination of conscience and stuff. But, you know, I find myself every confession, I examine my conscience and I pick out the usual sins, and sometimes the worst culprit of when this comes up is when you stop committing those sins that you always commit. And now you somehow, because in relativity, because you've been focusing on those same sins for the past, I don't know how many months, now you don't have that sin anymore. And now you just
Hmm.
forgot about all the other sins. And I think
Yeah.
this is first world problem, but Catholic version.
Yeah. Well, you get rid of particular sins, especially sins that men are troubled with these days. Sins of the flesh. You get rid of those eventually. You conquer that side of yourself, and then you come to what you think is like the summit or whatever. Like you're over the top of the hill now, and it's like, wow, I'm like horrible. I've got anger issues. I have wrath and hatred in me. I hate people. I'll judge somebody, I'll judge them for their sins, for being an
Exactly.
occasion of sin for myself. But it's like they don't even know. It's like you've got to you've got to meditate on your like the nature of your sins beyond what your daily struggles are. uh, I think it's very important to get to the root of those problems and try to walk with Christ in that. Kind of listen to Jesus. Because we're very imperfect and we're judgmental, hateful creatures, and we've got to exercise a little bit more love when it comes to sin, because a lot of our sins we're not even noticing because we are addicted to things, and we think that that's like the only sin we have in our life. And a lot of times you'll go through your life and you're like, well, I sinned real big last week when I got blackout wasted. And you forget about all the other little sins and big sins in between that you don't even think about that. And if we want to be sanctified, we're
Mm.
called to holiness and to sainthood. We've got to recognize that we're very imperfect.
Exactly, and I think this is definitely a wake up call to. It's when you think about it that way, it's such a wake up call when you think that. Well, say you're struggling with things like pornography and masturbation, and you, th- you know, that is just you're barely scratching the surface. I guess because think about it. If you get rid of like those two main sins in your life, you get rid of those, and you find that you have a multitude of other sins. So think about it. All along, you've been so focused on these particular sins, and you don't even notice that this is how much sin you think you're dealing with. This is the amount of sin you're really dealing with. So if you can't even get over these these main ones that you constantly struggle with, then imagine like you're in more trouble than you realize. And it's such a wake up
Yeah.
call when you think about it. So, wow.
That's why when I go to confession, I always I do what Padre Pio did, and I ask when I finish my confession listing the sins, I'll say I also seek forgiveness for sins that I've committed, that I've forgotten about, or am unaware of that offend God. So
Exactly.
it's important to include that. That will give you a little more peace of mind too.
Yeah. I was actually taught to do that. I didn't know it wasn't standard practice. Is it not?
No.
Oh.
I mean, it might not be. I have people that's news to them all the time that I talk to on Catholicism.
Huh. Really? Huh. Should make a post about
it.
Well, but that's not a shortcut, because sometimes people use that as a shortcut to, like, oh, I'm just gonna shove all those other sins that I don't really want to talk about and shove it in.
You gotta dive into it.
Yeah. Wow. That was a great one. And I think I have one last quote, which is a heavy, long one. This, I think you covered this on the whole slippery slope thing, but I'm just going to read it out. So, quote, "It's not a question of gay marriage, which shouldn't be a question whatsoever, but it's a question of what's next. How far is the culture from pedophilia? How long before people aren't even apologized to? It's a natural sexual preference, they will say. It's beyond our realm of understanding. They're not evil, they're humans too. They make TV shows sexualizing children, and the devils come out to defend them. The blue check marks aren't hiding their opinions, but broadcasting them for all to read, for all to agree eventually. The hive mind is at work, and the general population is receiving their updates. They will comply with every disgusting thing they put out. The bad ones," referring to the bad priests, "will be there to guide religious down such a dark, dismal road as well." Another one of those really deep, dark quotes that you had in there. I think you have a talent for dropping these lines, you know.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. It's just I was writing this. So it's just after the whole cuties incident with Netflix and the sexualization of the little girls, and when that happened, of course, the majority of people were pissed off about it, but you had a lot of apologists for this sort of media. A lot of people that enjoyed it because they're sick. And you have blue check marks someone didn't know what that meant. That's like the verified people on social media. People that, have a little bit of authority to what they say, because social media deems so. And they'll come out and they'll defend it for whatever reason. They'll put their own demented opinion on it, and people take it as it's like a new Bible verse from the blue check mark. It's gospel truth to the sheeple. So it's just, and people might think this is beyond belief that pedophilia would be normalized one day, but it has in previous cultures. Ancient Rome, ancient Greece, all of these different cultures had pedophilia at one point normalized, and typically it was around or close to the fall of their society. So it's like bottom of the barrel. Like once we get there, we're gonna see a lot of nasty stuff, and it's not gonna last too long. I don't think. I think those things often lead to quick destruction and hopefully a quick rebirth, renaissance of sorts of the soul.
All good there.
Yeah, I don't know what that noise is. I think it's a cat.
All right. All right, let's get into the Q&A. We had some comments from the Instagram polls, so let's pull up this first one. Have any victims of abuse in the church made comments on the book?
Actually, when I was writing the book, I wanted to be very cautious about the
Yeah.
way I depicted things. So I had made like a little ad on my page for people who had been abuse victims of sorts. And I talked to probably like a dozen different women um, about this problem and their experiences and how it affected them and stuff. And I think I had some of them read passages and whatnot to uh, what sensitivity readers, I think, or something, some term like that. But they read through it and whatnot. I just wanted to approach it very carefully. But no victims of the church have made any comments on it. I think there was one woman that helped me uh, that was was a victim in the church, but it was more her just shining a light on her experience and whatnot for me to pull from.
So when you made the poll for people to read through the stuff and the people who reached out, were they weren't they were victims of sexual abuse in general?
Yeah, most of them were sexual abuse in general. I think one or two of them were within the church.
Wow. And
Yeah.
like in your poll of followers, like what were the numbers like? Just curious.
It wasn't many, and there probably is more people that are
Yeah, of course.
survivors within my following, but the ones that wanted to speak or were comfortable enough, I mean, it was probably like a dozen people.
For sure. Okay. So this one, okay, this one, I think I mean I'll take this one. How to defend the faith when some Filipinos on Twitter, Twitter, gosh, accuse the church of colonizing my country. Well, I think you don't really have to defend the faith per se. I think you just have to defend the where would the Philippines be if it weren't for the Spanish?
Yeah,
Where would
definitely. I
like
mean, the
that's the
Philippines
question.
Philippines would probably look more secular. Probably would have ended up more like Vietnam or
Yeah,
something.
yeah. And
I mean, it's a
um
blessing. It honestly, I mean, not even to defend the church or anything, but it's a great blessing that they were colonized by the Spanish. That there might have been some sins and some blood spilled. I'm not sure about the Philippines in particular, but without Western colonization, I mean, what would the ethics of the country look like? What would the laws look like? What would the actual um, what would the actual like happiness, the life
the
there look
prosperity, I
like?
guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same for Singapore as well, you know. Funny thing in Singapore, I think Singapore does a decent job. They don't villainize the colonial history. In fact, they kind of worship it. That's a story for
Hmm.
another day. But I think the Philippines, you know, I mean, this is not to be offensive, but we all know that the Philippines, it is it? I'm not sure if it is classified as a third world country. I think it is. So as it is a third world country. It has made a lot of progress in, you know, the recent years, but think about where the Philippines would be if it weren't colonized. You wouldn't like just think about it. If right now it's a third world country.
It would have been the Muslims if I mean
Oh yeah,
there is
that's
Islam
true.
within
It
the
would have been the
Philippines, but
Muslims. You're right. You're
it would
right.
have it would have absolutely been like a totally Muslim country, and this person, whoever doesn't appreciate the church's colonization of the Philippines, would surely not appreciate the Muslim colonized Philippines. It'd be a lot different.
Yeah, yeah. I think that would be. They would have definitely. between the Catholic Church and I think there's a, there's a it's an obvious choice there. And by the way, not
I personally
yeah.
like pork and alcohol.
Good one. Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right. Parado Arts, he makes great art, so shout out to him on Instagram. Great stuff there. Um, and another question by him: how can we address the supposed abuses in the church reported by the media? As I said earlier, I think one thing is to approach with humility. You know, we have to just say it, and yeah, it's true. Like we can't deny it. You know.
Yeah. I think the church can take care of itself. We don't have to bend over backwards and pretend things
Yeah.
don't happen within the church. We can definitely be very honest about it, but it would be nice if the media was honest about it,
Yeah.
because there is an abuse problem all across humanity in every institution.
Yeah.
And Pope Francis has been, I don't know. I mean, I think he's been a little bit more transparent about this. Somebody might correct me, but he's given us statistics and everything about, what percentage of the priesthood is abusers, made up of abusers. So I mean, it's just we've just got to be more honest and hope that the church does a better job addressing these problems.
Yeah, so right. I think that's a good point. We don't have to bend over backwards to defend it. Church can take care of itself. It is the
Hmm.
one of the largest, most powerful institutions in the world, you know. All right.
I'm here for Jesus. I'm not here for the way that Pope whoever handled a particular scandal.
Exactly. And where's Jesus? In the Eucharist. Who else has this, man? I'm not to say that Jesus is only in the Eucharist, but where else can you get him in physical form, you know? So beautiful.
Yeah,
I just wrote a poem that I posted on Instagram about that. So beautiful when you
I
realize
did see
that.
that. It was very nice. You did an excellent job with that.
Thank you. Thank
Very
you.
good. Very good stuff.
All right. So Stork, your previous book doesn't deal with the morality of blowing up empty clinics. That's the thing.
Yeah,
They weren't empty, were they?
yeah. They weren't empty.
A bit of background first, like just some
A
background for the
little a
people.
little bit of a spoiler, but it's okay. Well, in Stork, you have a group of like radicalized Catholics and other Christians and just conservatives in general called the Zealots, and one of their goals is to send shockwaves into the world, and that is by blowing up abortion clinics, practically abortion clinics. I mean, that's not what they are, but that's what happens in the book. And we explore the morality behind that in that book. And I think, I don't know, blowing up empty clinics is still not justifiable in my opinion. We need to ban those practices. We need to get rid of them. But I mean, I don't know. There's so many sins, so many gray areas and stuff. It's difficult to say really, but I wouldn't advise anybody to do that.
Yeah. Just a disclaimer, you know, don't
Yeah,
go blow
we
up
we
Planned
we do not
Parenthood.
we don't condone this whatsoever.
It's just fiction, you know. That's the point of fiction. It's to it's to bring what can't necessarily
Yeah.
be done in real life to let the imagination run wild, you
Mhm.
know. All right. Why don't victims report priests to the secular authorities? I think you touched a bit on this just now.
Yeah, we I think a lot of parents and a lot of abuse victims, they don't want to be sensationalized by the media. They want to kind of be discreet about it. But you could say it's the wrong call. I think that priests should be dealt with by the law, to the full extent of the law. In this particular instance, especially. But I don't know. I think it's usually people are just trying to avoid scandal and sensationalism. But I don't know. I mean, I can't, I can't speak on it. You know, I'm not an abuse
Yeah,
victim
yeah.
myself. Nobody in my family is. I can't say whether or not I would do that or the other. I think there's also, and not to detract from anybody's experience, but I think there is a percentage of people out there that make false claims and they go to the church because they want a payout. They don't want justice because there's no justice to be done on something that didn't happen, you know.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a good answer. Yeah, I think there is definitely a fear factor as well as along with the whole. I mean, I guess as a faithful Catholic, you've been abused by a priest, and perhaps as a faithful Catholic, you also don't necessarily want to drag your entire church down with, I think many victims, they probably understand that, it's this priest was a terrible guy, probably will go to hell. But the church is still the church, and I don't want to be the guy who just causes another scandal and causes more people to leave the church. And I think that's also another factor that plays in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
All right. Oh, I think we had a comment. Someone says, "How dare you spoil Stork?" Oh
It's
well, sorry. It wasn't that bad a
not spoiled.
spoiler.
It's
That
not spoiled. I
come
mean,
on.
you find out pretty early on in the book that their goal is to, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
attack in that way, in that particular way. Is
Oh,
the Shriving Place based on a true story? I would say it is a what's the word? It's a collection. You know, it's it's a combination of things. You know, it's a combination of fact and fiction and history. You know, there's a lot of history in the book. You know, the story practically writes itself in a way. Um, I would not say it's autobiographical though.
yeah. I would hope not.
Yeah,
Be a bit worried if it was. Anyway, yeah.
I don't travel for my job, so
Okay, yeah, that's evidence enough. Or sell medical equipment, so to say.
yeah.
So, any final points you want to add on there before we end off?
No, I'm really appreciative for this opportunity, and I would encourage everybody to go by and read my books.
Yes,
I think
yes.
you'll enjoy them.
The link to buy his book is right below in the description already. So yeah, even
Well,
if
thank you.
you're not in the US, there's a Kindle version. I always get the Kindle version because I'm usually by the time I
There's
get.
also
Oh yeah.
there's also other bookstores that provide them. So
Oh.
if Books a Million or the what is it called, the Book Depository, all these different companies and whatnot, they'll have the books in stock, and you can order
Great.
through there.
Great.
Yeah.
Check him out there. Also follow Catholicism for, I mean, best Catholic memes on Instagram.
Thank
Anything
you.
else?
No, that's it. I think.
All right. So, I mean, final words. If you have not subscribed, of course, subscribe. Please, come on. I'm probably gonna lose a lot of. I started out YouTube doing music videos. Half of my subscribers are here from my music. So probably they're gonna see this kid
I didn't
uploading a
know
whole
that.
bunch of Catholic stuff, and they're gonna be like, "What the heck is this?" They're gonna start unsubscribing. You're gonna see my numbers turn from 800 to, I don't know, 300. So do subscribe. Um, don't make me sad. That would be really sad if I lose half my subscribers. Follow me on social media, uh, Instagram. That's where I'm most active. My website. It's where I put everything. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, I'm a web designer. I can replace your Patreon. Really cool. You don't have to rely on that if you wanna create content and not rely on Patreon for your monthly paycheck. So hit me up on that, gxemedia.com, or send me a message and we can see how we can work together. All right. With that said, thanks so much for watching. Brian, I really appreciate you coming on. Really appreciate the enthusiasm. It means the world in this world of Catholic Instagram. You always never fail to make me feel welcomed. So really appreciate it, really, from the bottom of my heart. Thank you. So
Well,
without
thank you
further,
for having me.
yeah. So I'll see all of you next week. I upload pretty regularly now. Very proud of that. So I will see you next week on the Catacomb Diaries. Same time, same place. And don't forget to buy Brian's book. Apparently, you get an indulgence. I'm joking, but all well. All right. Let's end this.